Okay, welcome to another video, and today we are currently watching the live stream of the Singapore National Youth Championships 2021. This is the Under 12 Girls Masters, right? And I believe this is the second block of their Master Series because I did watch the first block earlier, but I didn't record it. So now going to the second block, and we just have a look at the girls, some of their basic fundamental games and so on. Like this lady here, she Rachel, yeah, that's Rachel Foo, right? Based on the name on this, on the score display up there. She's pretty good fundamentals, nice balance. If can I get a? Oh wait, just reverse it. Can I get a? A rewind. So this is what I would say called good fundamentals. If you look at Rachel's swing, it's it's quite in line with her target. She's probably intending to send out a shot like throughout here, right? This is probably her break point. Let's see if she does it in the replay. Close, sends it a little bit inside of target, but still floats into the pocket, which for a strike, right? So because of that, you can see that she has a pretty good straight swing. She doesn't have much drift as well. So Rachel Foo from Strike Academy, not much drift as well. She walks in a relatively straight line to her target, and she sends this is her intended target path, right? She wants the ball to go here, right? Probably around the 15 board breakpoint, that's around there. So she walks straight, sends the ball straight into her target line as well, and it hooks a little bit into the pocket. Then if we look at a little bit of her fundamentals, so let's remove the lines here. Fundamentals, yep. Pretty good balance arm, pretty straight, parallel to the floor. Trailing leg is nice and flexed at the knees, right? She has a little bit of decent knee bend, not too much. There's another thing to note about all the kids that are under 12 is that most of their bodies are still pretty underdeveloped at this point. Most for the ladies, they're actually better than the boys, so to say, because they're going through puberty. So a lot of the ladies are strong, right? So you will see like a lot of the ladies here, a lot of the girls here are a lot taller, right? Yep, a lot of the taller girls because they are undergoing puberty. Some of the younger girls, maybe they are just in the 11, age 10 or 11, because since this is under 12, so anyone that's like maybe probably 8, 9, 10, 11, they are able to join this tournament. So some of them are younger, maybe their bodies are not as well developed, so their legs are not as strong, so they might not be able to have as much knee bend as we would normally like to see. But still, this is decent knee bend, good knee bend, and importantly, she has a high follow through as well, right? So how we define as a good follow through is that at least the hand has to follow through and reach a point above the head. So that's where you know that she has a good follow through. And anything else? So let's take a look at her release, right? Yep, nice and quick, not super fast. Like she doesn't accelerate she doesn't accelerate the ball or flick the ball at release, but it's still a pretty smooth release. She has decent ref rate, but as she grows up, she's able to support the ball more. She should have better ref rate, but let's see whether she supports the ball well upon release. Okay, so this is a point whereby, especially for both male and female bowlers, the situation is the same, whereby if their fingers are not strong enough yet, right, they are having their fingers on the top half of the ball. So maybe I'll just put it in red here. So because they have their fingers on the top half of the ball, the amount of revolutions they could generate on the ball is quite limited. So ideally, if you want to generate more revs on the ball, more revolution and more power, what should be ideal is that you should have your fingers stay strong and support the ball, keep the wrist from breaking in this direction, and have the fingers at the side in the middle, or to the side of the ball in the middle of the ball, or ideally you have it in the bottom half of the ball here. But especially for ladies, if their hands are not as strong, their wrists and fingers are not as strong as the guys, so it is quite difficult to ask them to go underneath the ball, right? But at least if they can have their fingers at the middle part of the ball, then they will have a lot more ref rate. Okay, so that's that. Okay, let's go back to the live view. So anyone else that we can see? Okay, so there's this bowler on our right here. I don't know whose bowler is this. Let's see whether the score updates. Okay, I believe that's Charmaine, right? Charmaine just has a strike. So Charmaine here, you can see it's a little bit of a newer bowler. So some of the mistakes that Charmaine has is that she has actually she has some good fundamentals. What I like about Charmaine here, Charmaine is our bowler here, right? What I like about Charmaine here is that she's really fast on the approach. Like her momentum is really quick. She just goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, she goes for a 4-step approach. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So she has a really quick footwork, which helps Charmaine to generate that much needed ball speed, because what a lot of female bowlers, especially young girls, they lack is ball speed, because ball speed is actually quite important in the competitive bowling especially. So having quick footwork helps her to generate that kind of speed. But what is not that ideal is the size of the steps that she takes. So first and foremost, Charmaine seems to stand a little bit too far back on the approach for her height, because she's obviously still a little girl, right? Charmaine is not very tall, as you can probably compare with the rest of the girls here, and she's standing behind what we call this is the ball return. So she's standing behind the start of the ball return. So that is actually quite far, and because of the large distance that she stands, right, she has to stretch her feet out pretty far when she walks, so to say. The first step is okay. So you look at Charmaine's first step. First step is pretty small, right? First step is nice and decently small. So what we mean by a good step is that, oh, I need to reverse it. What we mean by a good step, okay, what I mean by a good step here is that when you walk, right, especially for the first 2 steps or the first 3 steps, if you are walking the 5-step approach, your first 2 to 3 steps should be a normal walking distance, just like how far you would normally walk with a normal step. If you're stretching beyond that, then it becomes very unnatural. So you will have a little bit of issues with your weight transfer as well later on in the approach. So what happens to Xiaomi here, I believe, is that her second step is really large. It's too fast for me to pause it. I need to try and catch a second step. So first and second, right? So you can see here her second step here. Second step here is a lot wider than the first step. The first step is in blue and the second step is in red. So she's walking the second step, which is like much bigger, much larger than what you would normally see like a kid of Charmaine's height walking, right? So it's very unnatural. It stretches her ahead and it actually interferes with her timing. Even though ideally you would think that it helps her get the speed, but actually walking big steps will kind of hamper with your weight transfer and your timing as well. So most of the time, what happens for bowlers that walk big step is that their weight transfer, they tend to have this inability to transfer their weight forward. So their upper body stays very stiff high up instead of leaning forward. So normally in this case, if you're walking a 4-step approach, on your second step, when your ball is on the downswing, you should be leaning forward like in the red arrow here. So you should lean forward so that you have this weight transfer forward, and that forward momentum of your weight transfer helps you to generate that ball speed. But in this case, because Charmaine here is walking a very big second step, so when she's walking a very big second step, her body has to stay upright in order to stay balanced. So it will be easier for her to lean forward if she's walking smaller, more natural second steps, and that should help her in the game. So this is why she looks a little bit awkward and her timing looks a little bit like it doesn't flow as well, right, when you watch her bowl. Okay, anything else? Her third and fourth step looks good, so she accelerates, and you can see for Charmaine here, she's actually blocked by our young girl here, but she probably doesn't have very good knee bend. Her trailing leg, let's see, her trailing leg is, I believe, bent around here. So trailing leg is about flex, but the bowling leg, the front leg, doesn't have a lot of knee bend. So you can see that Charmaine is very high on the approach, right? Very high, her shoulders are also very high. So some of the mistakes here is that her bowling shoulder is actually almost level. So ideally, you want your bowling shoulder to be lower than your non-bowling shoulder. So this why this is done is because when your bowling shoulder is lower, it helps to create a gap on the right side of your body. If you are right-hander, if you are left-hander, you should just flip it around. So it helps to create this gap, where this gap will allow your ball to come down the downswing and allow the bowler to do a little bit more on release, right? Let's say some of the bowlers, they want to have a little bit of a faster release. They want to flick the ball and have a quick follow through to generate that ref rate. So in order to do all this all this quick release motion, you need to have a little bit more space on the right side of your body to prevent the ball from sort of like knocking into your hips and your thighs. So this is why the bowling shoulder should be lower than the non-bowling shoulder. In this case, for Charmaine's case, it's almost level. So this is why she looks a little bit too straight on the finishing position, and her upper body isn't tilted enough to her bowling side. Ideally, what we would like to see is that the upper body has to have a tilt of at least around here. So the upper body should tilt more to the right. So also it is also meant to do the same thing, to create more space on the right hand side of her body for the ball to come down into the downswing and for her to have a nice smooth release. Okay, so these are the flaws that I see in the game. Well, we have let's look at some other bowlers here. Okay. Like when they grab a drink. Okay, so this is one of the bowler that I personally know. This bowler here, she's Isabel Era Nava, so from a school that I coach, CHIJ, and she is under the NSRCC Academy, coached by Coach Tiap Ping as well as Remy Ong. Her game is simple. I believe she walks a 4-step approach, right? So Isabel has pretty decent fundamentals, but some of the mistakes for young bowlers, for especially young female bowlers, is very similar as well. So first and foremost, Isabel's shoulders here is really straight, so which is not ideal. Maybe I can put it in red. So this is having this straight of the shoulders during your stance is not ideal. Ideally, like I mentioned earlier, you want your bowling shoulders to be lower, even during the stance while you're holding the ball. Bowling shoulder to be lower than the non-bowling shoulder, because same thing, the reason is to create the gap here. So creating the gap here will allow your more free space for your for your hands to go deeper to support the bowling ball in order to generate that ref rate. Because usually you would think of a scooping motion when you want to lift the ball, right? So in order to scoop the ball out with your fingers, you need to get your fingers at least to the middle or underneath the ball if possible. Then in order to do this, you really need a lot more space on the right side of your body. If not, your hips will get in the way of that scooping motion. So if you feel very restricted in like the right side of your body when you're bowling, it's most likely that your shoulder tilt, your upper body tilt is not enough. That's why you don't have enough space on the right side of your body. Your hips and your thighs are in the way of you applying power to the ball. So that is the first mistake that I see. Other than that, okay, so her knee bend is decent. Not, like I mentioned, not as much as we would actually like to see for bowlers, but it is decent because most of the bowlers that young, I believe she is 11 if I'm not wrong, they don't have very strong legs yet because their body is still undergoing puberty. They're still growing, so because their legs are not as strong, so they cannot go as deep for the knee bend. But because of this, because of the lack of knee bend and the lack of her dropping of her right shoulder, right, she doesn't get very deep. Like ideally her right shoulder should be lower, much lower than the left shoulder upon release, so that she can go lower. She can try and scoop the ball up more to try and apply, get more ref rate on the ball. So that's a disadvantage. Her trailing leg, okay, let's use this straight line here. Trailing leg is also kind of too straight. Like you can see here, is rather too straight. So there's not enough flex on her trailing leg knee. Like that means her trailing leg knee is kind of stiff. It's not relaxed enough. What's good about her form here is her balance arm is typically rather straight. which is good. So she has pretty good balance. She doesn't seem to lose balance easily. And her follow through is not as high. So her follow through is only up to her face level, right? Okay, I'm wrong. So she does manage to follow through above her head, which is good. So she manages to follow through, her hands ends up above her head, so that's a nice follow through. Other than that, during release, what is good about her is that her upper body tilt is not too bad. So she's tilted her upper body to the right side of her, or I would say the bowling ball side. So this creates a little bit more space for her to release the ball, so that is a good thing for her. And I cannot really see her release, but from what I know of Isabel's game, I've seen her earlier in the stream. Yep, she is not able to get really underneath the ball, right? She uses a Mega Decker. Okay, can I pause it here, right? She uses a Mega Decker, but like I mentioned, because her right shoulder doesn't drop as much as we would actually prefer for her to be, so she is not able to get as deep underneath the ball. Let's see, maybe I'll select in red, right? So you can see her fingers here is in the top half of the ball, rather than ideally it should be at least in the middle part of the ball, which is around here. So her fingers should be lower for Isabel to generate a lot more power on the shot. So because of that, her ref rate is not a lot. So she has decent ref rate, but not a lot of ref rate, and the ball rolls pretty slowly. So one of the disadvantages here is her ball speed as well. From what I understand of Isabel's previous game is that she actually has a higher ball speed, but Isabel used to have the issue of having her thumb being stuck in the ball while she generates that ball speed. So she tends to loft the ball, which is not ideal. So I think the coaches have worked with her on this. The coaches at NSRCC have worked with her on this, because we actually, at our school ECA, we didn't get to coach them at all because of all the COVID restrictions. They didn't get to go on the lanes. All I had with them was Zoom sessions where I only taught them theory. So unfortunately, I couldn't work with a lot of the girls to improve their physical game, which is a big drawback of the COVID pandemic. But it was those restrictions were done to try and protect the kids, right? Because the kids were not vaccinated, so it had to be done. So unfortunate, but had to be done. So at least for girls like Isabel, when they have coaching at their respective academies, at least they get to bowl regularly, right there, and they get some supervision as they bowl, so they're still able to improve. So the drawback here is that she doesn't get a lot of ball speed, and as you can see how she may be able to generate better ball speed. Okay, one of the reasons is that one of the reasons is that her weight transfer is not that great. Okay, if we watch here, okay, at this point, right? Yep, so what I mentioned about weight transfer is the upper body weight transfer. At this point where the ball is going downwards into the swing, ideally you would like to have the upper body, this is, okay, let me use it in red. So this is currently her upper body tilt, right? So it's quite upright, right? It's not forward enough. So usually what we would prefer is at least for the bowler to go a little bit forward, maybe like 10 to 20 degrees of forward upper body tilt, because you want the forward upper body tilt as you want your weight to be leaning forward, upper body weight to be leaning forward, to help you to generate some forward momentum as you move into the last few steps of your approach. So because Isabel here is a little bit too upright, so she doesn't get that benefit of that forward, that momentum from using her upper body. So she doesn't have as much momentum, hence she's not able to generate as much ball speed. So her ball speed suffers as a result. It's a little bit on the slower end. Still okay for her ref rate and for a female bowler, but obviously some of the other girls here have much better ball speed and much better ref rate. So against the competition, yeah, it's a little bit more difficult as well. Because I believe some of the bowlers that I see from Strike Academy, they actually have very, very good fundamentals. Let's see if I can spot some of them. Like, I saw this girl from Agape here. She looks pretty good, but maybe we will watch the game in more detail later. Okay. This lady in the orange t-shirt, I believe she is Sidra, based on the name here. She actually has a pretty nice finishing position, but a little bit over exaggerated, right? Oh, it's actually blocked by the other girl. Really unfortunate. But her balance arm is good. Her trailing leg kicks up, but it's a little bit exaggerated because for the amount of power that she's generating on the ball, she actually doesn't need to kick up her trailing leg that much, right? Her trailing leg should be able to stay closer to the ground for better balance. But her upper body lean is a little bit too extreme, right? It's too much to the side of the body. So because she leans too much to the side, so hence her body is losing balance. Hence she wants to kick up her trailing leg, try and keep her body balanced. But in this position, she's not very balanced because there's a little bit. So some upper body lean to the side of your bowling ball is good, but in this case, it's too much. So ideally, the amount of upper body lean should be around like that. About 45 degrees should be enough. But in this case, when you're looking at Sidra's side, Sidra's upper body lean, she's almost leaning like 60 degrees right to the side. She's almost falling to the ground, almost 90 degrees, right? So that is pretty unbalanced. So there is a little bit too much of a upper body lean to the side. So other than that, I think generally what the upper body lean does for her, right, is that, like I mentioned before, it allows her to have a lot of space right underneath her bowling shoulder on the right side of her body. So this allows her to generate more power upon the release. She can do a lot more on the bowling ball upon release. Whether can we see it here is a good question. Maybe we can't see it in this shot. Yeah, she tries to do a little bit more upon release. So as you can see, her rev rate is faster when compared to the previous girl, right? When compared to Isabel. So because of that, she's able to generate more power and more rev rate. Yep. Pretty good bowler here. This is Maisha. Yep. So this is Maisha here from Strike Academy. Pretty good fundamentals. If we take a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? So pretty good fundamentals. Her arm swing goes a little bit out of position. So we will play this first. Her back swing goes a little bit too on the inside. Right? Too tucked in. So, okay, let's look at Maisha's target, right? She's trying to spare pin 10. So she wants to cross the middle arrow to spare pin 10. That is her, maybe let's do it in blue, right? Her intended target line is around here from the right shoulder, right? From the right shoulder where the ball should drop, she wants to go through the middle arrow and she wants to spare pin 10. But if you look at where she's swinging the ball, she's swinging the ball, her ball path, that means her backswing is not in line with the blue arrow, right? Not in line with the target line. So her swing is too much on the inside of her body. So this is an issue with the swing, which if it's not corrected in the future, it will lead to one of the points whereby she's not consistent on her, she's not as accurate or as consistent as she wants to be in the future. But other than that, the other parts of the game are pretty good because her balance arm, very straight. Okay, let's use blue here. So balance arm is very straight. Her knee bend is excellent, right? Front knee bend, excellent. So even for a very young girl like her, like Maisha is obviously a very young girl. She's still quite small in size. Then, yep, she has excellent knee bend. So we can see here, very excellent knee bend, right? Nice deep knee bend, very strong leg, strong lower body. Her trailing leg position is excellent as well. Why it's excellent is because we look at this angle that she generates from her trailing leg. The angle that her trailing leg generates from the sliding leg, she has about 45 degrees. That is a very good 45 degrees to normally about 30 to 45 degrees is actually enough. It's a good enough angle for your trailing leg to be. So nice angle for the trailing leg, and as such, because she has good nice straight balance arm and good trailing leg angle, her trailing leg knee is actually pretty relaxed and flexed as well. She has excellent balance, right? And then other than that, if you look at her upper body leans to the right side of her body, to her bowling ball side. About 45 degrees of upper body lean. I mentioned what the bowler in orange, what Sidra should have earlier. And what this does is that it allows her to have a lot more space underneath her bowling shoulder. So a lot more space underneath her bowling shoulder where she can do a lot more on the ball. She can try and have a quicker release, quicker follow through, and she can generate more rev rate on the ball. Her follow through is excellent as well. Her hands ends up above her head, and she's easily one of the best bowlers, best under 12 bowlers the best physical game, right? She easily has one of the best physical games among the under 12 bowlers that I've seen here. So excellent physical game. Strike Academy has done a great job with Maisha here. So, and if you look at her, let's say we look at the power that she can generate on the ball. Let's look at her ref rate. Yep, pretty decent ref rate, right, for a 12-year-old? Even though, of course, obviously it's a spare ball, so it doesn't hook, but you can look at the amount of refs you can generate on the ball. I mean, it's not as much as, of course, some of the top bowlers, but for a 12-year-old, that is quite decent ref rate, right? That's pretty good. So, very balanced, very stable, and obviously very accurate as well, right? Even though she has her arm swing direction, her backswing direction isn't ideal. She tucks her backswing a little bit more, but she's still able to she's probably able to consistently hit a target. Just has to work a little bit on that backswing direction. Very good bowler. Okay, I believe this is Coach Adam, if I'm not wrong. Younger Adam, not the Adam Chu from NSRCC. I don't know his surname, and this is Coach Chiaping from NSRCC. Yep, Coach Chiaping is also a very good left-handed bowler as well. Okay, you can see one of the strike girls, that is Carrie New, I believe. If I'm not wrong, yeah, I believe that's Carrie New. Okay, so some decent fundamentals. Upon the finishing position is good, but the stance could be better, right? So as usual, we would prefer the bowling shoulder side to be lower than the non-bowling shoulder. So you can see that I'm repeating a lot of things, right? So a lot of the young bowlers, or a lot of the new beginning bowlers, they have very similar issues. So we've seen a lot of them. When you work and coach with a lot of them, you will know that many of them have similar issues, and so I mean, it's not easily fixed, because to change your physical game, it does take many months of hard work and practice in order to change just one single aspect of your physical game, because habits are very hard to break. So, but if you could get them to have a very good physical game while they're young, that will really pave the way for them to be like world-beating international bowlers, right? Like world-class international bowlers as they grow older. So if at 12, like they already have a good physical game like Maisha here, so imagine her game when she turns like 16 to 18, right? She could easily be a world-class bowler if she has enough passion to keep on bowling, and she keeps improving her game. Okay, so back to Carrie here, Carrie New from Strike Academy. So during her stance, her shoulders are too level, so ideally it should be lower, like this. Her right shoulder should be lower. So because it's too level, she's too upright, you would see that when she swings, it's a little bit awkward. Yep. So when she swings, it's not that obvious in this view, right? When she swings, she's swinging around the body because her hips are in the way. Her hips and thighs are in the way. So when she swings here, right, I can actually see that from this angle, she's swinging, sort of like swinging a little bit around her hips instead of straight underneath her right shoulder. And the reason she has to do that is because the way her upper body is too upright, it's actually not tilted. You can see her upper body is too straight here, where ideally you would like your upper body to be a little bit tilted to the side, have your bowling side shoulder a little bit lower, so that to create more space for the ball to swing down. Because she doesn't have that space, her hips and thighs are in the way. Her body senses the hips and thighs are in the way, and the body instructs the arm to swing the ball around the hips instead of underneath the shoulder. And because of that, she's going to have issues with her accuracy as well. But her finishing position actually looks very promising, because you can see here in her finishing position, a lot of things are good. So her balance arm is really straight. I can't see here, but her knee bend looks pretty decent. Trailing leg angle looks pretty excellent as well. She has a good angle. So a good angle from the trailing leg to the sliding leg. So that's the benefits here. Her upper body lean to the bowling side is also pretty good, but it's a little bit too much. Like I mentioned, the ideal amount of upper body lean to the right side of the body for a right-handed bowler is about 45 degrees. So if you're a left-handed bowler, you should lean to the left side about 45 degrees. In this case, she's leaning about 50 to 60 degrees, which is too much to the right side of her body. She's trying to compensate for that. So her coaches probably train her that like in the finishing position you need to lean to the right. So she remembers that, but she hasn't gone to the stage where at the stance she hasn't mastered the stage where at the beginning of the stance she should also be leaning a little bit to the right side of her body. So some promising things here, but obviously she is room for improvement. If you look at her follow through on Carrie's follow through as well, not too bad, not as high as we would like, but at least she's trying to finish with her hand above the head. So pretty decent finishing position as well. Decent ball speed. So Carrie has decent ball speed because she is a taller girl. As you can see, Carrie here is a lot taller than some of the other girls, right? Because she either has parents, very good genes, her parents are either very tall, or she's a little bit of an older girl, maybe she's 11 and she has started her puberty a little bit. I mean she's in the midst of her puberty, right? So she's a bit taller. So when you have an advantage of a taller body, you probably also have taller arms and longer legs. So with the longer arms, generally a bowler can generate higher ball speed because there's just due to natural physics, right? When you have a larger radius of rotation, you can generate more linear velocity. So that's one of the general rules of physics, right? When you are talking about ball swing and arm swing. So that's the benefits of being taller and having longer arms. So Carrie is able to get more ball speed than some of her other competitors here. Okay, let's go back to the live view. This we are looking at Maisha again. So we already talked about Maisha. Very good physical game. Another strike for Maisha. Okay, Athena Shia, right? We're looking at nice power bowler here. So I think we're looking at Athena. I can't see her last name, Shireen. I'll just call her Athena. So Athena has pretty good fundamentals and a pretty nice power game. So what I mean by power games, because you can do a lot on a release. So part of it is because I'm gonna repeat. You're gonna see me repeating like a broken record again, right? So bowling shoulder lower than the non-bowling shoulder creates gap on the right side of her body so that her hips and thighs doesn't get in the way of the downswing. So you can see that her upper body tilts a little bit to the right. Not too much, because during the stance, right, while you're holding the ball, you don't want to tilt 45 degrees. That's a little bit too much. You only want to tilt 45 degrees when you're close to the finishing position or when you're at the finishing position, when your ball is coming down into the downswing. But when you're at the approach, when you're at the stance, you still want to be balanced. So you just need to tilt your upper body like a little bit, about 10 degrees, about 10 to 15 degrees, right, to the right side of the body. So she has a little bit of the upper body tilt. So a lot of things about her is good here. One of the things which is not good is that she has a little bit of a slight early weight transfer on her upper body. Like her upper body tilts a little bit forward too early. It's very subtle, but I can see from here that her upper body tilts forward a little bit too early. It's not too much. It can be fixed later in her development. But because of the upper body tilt, you can see that she has a lot of space for the ball to swing to the inside of her body. So a lot of space here. The swing goes perfectly underneath her right shoulder, and she's able to swing the ball to the inside of her body. Why she needs to do this is because she's trying to hit her target. She's trying to send the ball inside out and to hit the spare here, right? And as a power bowler as well, she's probably going to play deeper lines because she's able to generate higher ref rate and rotations on the ball. So she's probably going to play a lot deeper than most other female bowlers. And look at her release. So look at her release. Nice, powerful flick of the release. Good acceleration of the release, right? Maybe we can repeat. Let's take a look at her release here. Athena's release. Yep. So nice flick. You can see that quick flicking motion of her arms. Quick flicking motion. So what is not ideal is that the height of her follow through is not ideal, because her follow through only reaches to about her head, whereby ideally we would rather prefer for the follow through to go a little bit higher, to go above the head, for her to extend the arm a little bit further outwards and go above her head. Why we want the follow through to go high is because the higher your follow through, the more ball speed and power you can generate. because that's just part of how physics works as well, right? If you have a lower swing, you generate less power. If you have a higher swing, then, or if your swing goes higher, because it goes higher, it goes higher, it means it's generally faster. So faster swing generates more ball speed, and generally faster swing also equals to faster release. The ball, your fingers can flick the ball faster, so you can get a higher ref rate as well. So she's leaving a little bit of power on the table, but certain good aspects about physical game. Her balance arm relatively straight. We cannot see it here, but her knee bend is pretty good as well. Trailing leg has really good angle. So trailing is about close to 50 degrees, I believe, 50 degrees from her sliding leg. So nice angle for the trailing leg here, and has extremely good upper body lean. So upper body lean about 45 degrees, a little bit more than 45 degrees, about 50 degrees to the side of her body. And all this is meant to create a lot of space here for her quick and powerful release. So she's able to flick the ball, have a powerful release, and even her spare ball, right, has a decent amount of ref rate. So Athena here, very good physical game. Don't know if she's attached with any of the academies here, but very good game. Okay, that is, so I want to move on to look at some of the other bowlers, right? So we have 3 pairs of lanes. Okay, let's look at some of the bowlers here. Alright, so this is Kyra. So Kyra Chen here, that's just bowling. Let's reverse a little bit, look at Kyra's game. So Kyra is obviously a younger bowler, obviously quite new to the game, right? So some of the mistakes, gonna repeat again, like a broken record, some of the mistakes here, same thing. So bowling shoulder too level, she's actually too upright here, but then, which is why her hips are somewhat in the way. So you can see here in the midst of a downswing, right? It's actually more obvious in Kyra's case because camera is right behind her. So if you can see here, yep, you can see that she's very obviously swinging around her body because her hips are in the way. So let's use red to highlight those negative parts, right? You can see her hips are in the way. The ball is going to hit her hips, right? The body knows this. So what the body does here is that it creates an arm swing that's not straight. So you can see this is the angle of her arm swing here. So she has a little bit of angle. It's not directly underneath her right shoulder. So she's forced to swing around her body here. So she has to swing around her body, which leads to an inconsistent and inaccurate release as well. Because that means she's going to have a harder time hitting a target because her swing isn't straight. And that is also due to the fact that she doesn't have that tilted, the lower bowling shoulder during her stance. Then let's erase some of the lines here. So certain things, so also about her balance arm, so not perfectly straight, right? Balance arm not as straight as we would like to see. Knee bend is not bad, but can be a little bit more. So what is not this good is her trailing leg angle is very small. So trailing leg is not extended enough to the left side of her body. So when we talk about the angle, like this angle is too small. So she's only about 15, maybe 25 degrees of angle from her trailing leg to her sliding leg, where ideally, if we pay attention to some of the, let's use blue here, right? We pay attention to some of the better bowlers earlier that I highlighted earlier. Ideally, you want your trailing leg to go about this angle, so to be extended more to the left side of her body. So good things about her physical game is that her follow through is high, so that helps her to generate higher ball speed. So high follow through, hand ends up above her head, which is good. But certain disadvantages of a game that's not perfect yet is that her bowling shoulder needs to be a lot lower than the non-bowling shoulder, so she has to tilt her upper body, right? So upper body tilt is not enough, so her upper body is a little bit of a tilt to the right side, but ideally we would like to see her at least have about 45 degrees, 30 to 45 degrees of tilt to the right side of her body to generate more space on the right side so that she can apply a little bit more power on release. So I think she still hits a spare. Hey, yep, she hits spare. So well done. But Kyra is obviously a younger, newer bowler, so she has a lot of room to improve, and she should. So, okay, so we see a girl with a good physical game here. That's Shannon Lee from Strike Academy, right? So really good physical game. Immediately you can see some good aspects of a good physical game, right? So Shannon Lee here has shoulders that's tilted to the right side of her body, right? Bowling shoulder is lower. There's a little bit of upper body tilt. It's not very obvious, but her upper body is tilted a little bit to the right side during when she's holding the ball. So allows her to create more space on the right side of her body for her swing to come down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, then if you look at her footwork, so Shannon's footwork, 1, 2, you can see her footwork here is nice and natural, right? So both her first 2 steps isn't particularly large. It's actually pretty small and pretty natural looking, like how you would naturally want to walk. So she has a very good start. So why you don't want to rush or take too big first 2 steps is because if your first 2 steps are a little bit too large, what ends up happening is that you tend to rush your body forward. And if you rush your body forward, you cannot do what we call upper body weight transfer. Because what Shannon does well here is that she's actually starting to lean her upper body forward as the ball goes down. So she has a good upper body weight transfer. Then as she's leaning forward, it helps her to generate more momentum because the forward movement of the upper body means that she's able to generate more forward momentum, and it helps her to generate ball speed. So this generation of ball speed and that slow relaxed movement of the first 2 steps means that she's very stable upon the start of her approach. So being very stable means that you're more consistent, you're calmer, you're more consistent, there's less awkward movements, and it helps her to be more consistent in her approach and her release. So other than that, good aspects of physical game, pretty high backswing actually. In the modern game, we usually don't require such a high backswing. So the top of her backswing, the ball swings up above her head, which is still decent. But one reason why you will see that it looks as if she's a very high backswing is because she has a little bit of an excessive amount of forward upper body tilt. Like her upper body leans a little bit too much now, but generally it's still okay. It is but it's a little bit too much, right? So generally the upper body, the forward lean of the upper body, right, should be kept at about, probably for one-hander especially, for about 30 to 45 degrees. That's usually the maximum amount of upper body lean that you should do. Because if you lean forward too much, you are actually falling. You actually have a feeling of falling into the approach. So when you're falling into the approach, it actually affects other aspects of the game, like having too high a backswing. When you have too high of a backswing here, you actually delay your timing a little bit too much. So your timing actually slows down, your momentum slows down, and you actually lose ball speed as a result of that slowing down of that momentum. So good aspects of physical game is that her balance arm is really straight. She has excellent knee bend. We can't really see here, but as we see her go into a finishing position, yep, finishing position around here, right, excellent knee bend. So it's a bit blocked by the angle here, but she has good knee bend. Her trailing leg is nice and flat, so her trailing leg is around here. So because she still has a good, so because of this, she still has a good, decent, about 45 degrees angle from her trailing leg to her sliding leg, right? And she has good upper body lean. So upper body leans to the right side about 45 degrees. So it gives her a lot of space on the right side of her body to apply power and flick the ball upon release. So if we reverse a little bit here, you can see that she does quite a bit upon release, right? Yeah, yep, she has a very nice and quick release. She does that flicking motion, quick follow through, quick flicking motion, quick follow through. Her arms, her hands finishes atop of her head. Yep. So her bowling hand finishes on top of her head. One thing that is not ideal about her swing is that I believe her swing is not that in line with her target. So if we are able to reverse it a little bit. Yep. So her swing is a little bit too tucked in. Yep. So it's a little bit too tucked in. So it's very subtle, but her swing is going a little bit too much into the left. Because actually her target is somewhere around here, right? So if you look at how her target line is formed, her swing, the line of her backswing looks like it's actually off target, like it's not parallel to the line that I've drawn here, right? The line that she's supposed to hit, because she's swinging a little bit too much to the inside of her body, and this happens because she's leaning too far forward, and she has a backswing that goes up way too high, and because it goes high, her body is trying to slow down the backswing, and when it's slowing down the backswing, it's doing a lot of weird motions, like in this case, it's actually diverting the direction of her backswing, which actually hurts her accuracy. So what happens instead when she's trying to release, she has to correct the direction of the ball. So you can see that her flick here, she's trying to flick to the right side to try and correct the motion, because the ball is actually going to miss to the left, and she has to flick the ball to the right to try and hit her target. So this extra flicking motion from left to right actually adds to inconsistency. Even though it looks very nice, right? It looks like she's generating a lot of power, but she's actually still able to generate a very quick release even without this left to right motion. The reason for left to right motion is because her backswing is actually not in line with her target. But still, she has excellent physical game. She misses a target here. So that's what I mentioned, because she has to do this left to right motion with her release. So when she's trying to hit here, she actually overcompensated with her flick, and she misses a little bit to the right. So it actually hurts her accuracy, and it hurts her scoring potential as a bowler. But other than that, Shannon still has extremely good physical game. Extremely good. Oh, it has actually just ended, right? Just ended. Okay, maybe we can take a look at one of the last bowlers here. Okay, I believe Nurifah, I believe she is from CHIJ, if I'm not wrong, because I don't have the opportunity of coaching her, because I believe she was in primary 6 when I joined CHIJ last year. So, but she's learning from Bio Academy, and certain good aspects about her physical game. So I can see that she has pretty good physical game. Okay, let's reverse again. Okay, so let's mention about some of the good aspects about her physical game, right? Bowling shoulder a little bit lower than the non-bowling shoulder, helps her to create a bit more space on the right side of her body. And when she moves, okay, pay no attention to her footwork. So her first two steps are nice and natural. So not too fast, not too far as well. So nice 2 forward steps. Her upper body lean is actually rather good, because it's not a lot, it's a little bit. So you can see here what I mentioned earlier, that what Shannon should be doing instead is that you should just have a slight upper body lean, about 30 to maximum 45 degrees forward. You don't want to lean too far forward. So nice gentle upper body lean. You just need to lean a little bit forward to generate that forward momentum. But if you lean forward too much, it actually does a little bit of weird things to your backswing, because your backswing actually goes a little bit too high, and you actually slow down your time. So something that's not ideal here that I want to highlight in red is the same mistakes as Shannon earlier, is that her arm swings to the inside, right? So this is a strike shot. She's trying to probably send her ball around this angle. Then you can see that, maybe I can draw it in blue, right? So I would guess that her angle to her break point should be around here. So you can see that from the red line here, it's not parallel to the blue line, right? It's not parallel to her target line. So she's swinging too far to the inside, so that's not ideal. Other than that, good aspects about her physical game. Balance arm extremely straight, trailing leg well extended to the left side of her body. I can see that she has a good knee bend, so Nurifah here is pretty tall girl as well, right? And she has a good knee bend, she goes pretty low. Then this creates a very good angle from the about 45 degrees to about 50 degrees angle from her trailing leg to her sliding leg, right? So nice angle. That this good angle means that her trailing leg is well extended to the left side of her body, and she's very balanced, so she has very good balance. And because of that, she generates a lot of space on the right side of her body. And the reason she's generating this amount of space is because she has good upper body lean to the right side, about close to about 30 degrees, for 30 to 40 degrees lean to the right side of her body, and this helps her to create a lot of space for her downswing and for her release. So she also has that nice looking flick upon release that helps her to generate ref rate. To reverse a little bit. Yep, she has a nice flick. Her release follow through is, yep, not as high as we would like to see. So the maximum height of her follow through is around here. So the hands almost finish above her head, but the reason that she's not follow through, that her follow through is, she cannot reach the full height of her follow through, mainly is because of the direction of her swing, of her backswing, because her backswing was to the inside, and she has the same mistake as Shannon earlier. So upon release, she has to do this flick to the right side. She has to do like a compensation flick. Wait, is it to the right or to the left? Okay, well, I need to see that again. So let's see. Yeah, she has to change the direction of her release to this side, right? The reason being is because her arm swing was going to the inside. So if she were to follow the direction of her backswing, right, her release would end up going into the right gutter. So in order to correct that direction, to change that direction, she has to flick the ball to the left. And because she's flicking the ball to the left, even though it looks nice upon release, it actually adds to inconsistency and inaccuracy. So that's one of the disadvantages of a physical game, because of that backswing, the misdirection of her backswing. But other than that, her release is very quick. She has that quick release that adds to her power. Yep, and she's able to generate quite a decent amount of ref rate, right? And very nice strike here. Very nice and powerful strike. So if you look at the ball, amount of rotations of the ball that she can generate is very good. So nice quick release, good amount of ref rate. The ball curves nicely on this difficult spot oiling, and she gets a very good strike. So Nurifah here having a very good physical game, and if I recognize her correctly, I believe she's the elder sister of Nurifah, and I believe we heard from Nurifah that her elder sister is going to sports school. So I believe Nurifah here is probably the next candidate to enter sports school, right? And she looks to have a very good physical game. She looks to have a very bright future ahead if she continues bowling and she continues improving. So the only one flaw of physical game that I see so far is just the misdirection of her backswing, where her backswing swings to the inside. Other than that, Ifa here has excellent aspects of physical game. A lot of physical game is very good. So Bio Academy did really good job working with her here. Okay, and I believe that's it. The live stream has actually ended, so I believe the Under 12 Girls Masters has actually ended, and that's about it. So I want to end my analysis now. Thank you very much for watching. Hope to see you guys next time.